Welcome to Michigan Football at the Voice of College Football. I am one of your post-game hosts, Desmond. I am here with my partner, Dre. We are here to talk about the Michigan postgame. Before we get started, please like and subscribe. It helps join the channel. Also, give the stream a thumbs up. That also helps promote the channel as well. And make sure to join Mark Rogers' main channel, the Voice of College Football. Join his Discord where you can talk not only college football, but also pro football, 24/7, 365. So we've got Michigan ends up winning 31-10. It is final. JJ McCarthy over 300 yards, 3 touchdown passes. Dre, what are your thoughts?
Quarters 1 through 3 were pretty ugly. Well, first thoughts and prayers to Mike Hart. We wish him a speedy recovery.
Absolutely.
Definitely a scary situation and emotional for both sides. I mean, people may forget that Mike Hart was, I believe, the running backs coach and assistant offensive coordinator or something like that for Indiana for a few years in a time, Allen. So he is recognized and appreciated on both sides, and we wish him a speedy recovery. But look, quarters 1 through 3, pretty ugly overall, at least from a Michigan standpoint. I thought the fourth quarter was way better. Fourth quarter, they showed their dominance. They showed they were clearly the best team. I mean, there was a point in time late in the fourth quarter where it showed that Indiana only had 21 total yards in the second half. So they were a totally different team in the second half. So that was good to see. But I think one thing that's clear is that, as you called it, you said this was a trap game, and I think out of 48 minutes, 35 of those minutes, Michigan definitely was playing like it was a trap game and not coming out focused and playing sloppy. But at the end of the day, they won by a pretty good margin. They showed their dominance down the end of the stretch, and overall, they stay healthy. So, and they move forward. Looks like ready to go for Penn State.
Absolutely. And before I go, thank you, Kellen Sandifer, for contributing to the show. But defense could not get lined up in the first half. Offensive line is still good, even with Jones out. And yeah, I thought the O line played well the entire game. Like there was not a stretch of football where they didn't play well. And like you mentioned, like the difficult part is when you think about a team playing a trap game, because I was convinced this was one. The difficult part is offensively, Michigan came out and drove the ball down the field with absolute no resistance at all and scored a touchdown. So you would think that if it was a trap game, they would come out slow, but they actually came out like gangbusters, drove right down the field, scored a touchdown. And I think where it started was the second time Michigan got the ball, and it was like a third and I think it might have been a third and long, but the play call was essentially Schoonmaker on a crossing route, but he caught the ball and needed like another 7 yards after he caught the ball, and I just didn't love that play call. Like I am someone that thinks when it's pretty clear that you're the better team, like just go out and win the game. Like don't it's the same way I felt about Michigan with Iowa last week. Like you're the better team. Just go out and dominate them. I don't think they could stop you as long as you're being aggressive on offense. And I didn't feel like they were being aggressive the entire game on offense. And I thought it ended up making it a game, right? It was 10-10 at the half. I mean, it was 17-10 in the third quarter, if I'm not mistaken. And I just I don't know. The offense just after, especially after that first drive, basically the first and last drive, everything in between just looked disjointed. And I've seen some people on Twitter talk about the co-offensive coordinators. And I just, for me, I'm not gonna look at that and say that's an issue because I didn't say anything about it when the offense was playing well, like in the first couple games. So I'm
Right.
not gonna go in hindsight and say, well, this is a problem. But it just the play calling just lacked aggression for me as far as offensively.
Yeah, yeah. They definitely hit a lull at a certain point, and it's good. Blake, we all know that Blake Corum is fantastic. He's been fantastic all year. If I had my Heisman finalist top five, he'll be in there for sure. Um, and he was good again today, but for a certain point in the game, majority of his yards came off of one play, so even he wasn't able to get really going like he normally does. So the running game at times was spotty at first, and it picked up late. And JJ, even though he was efficient, um, he has to work on certain touches or certain passes he's doing as well. So um, it definitely continues to be a work in progress, both play calling and execution. But one good thing that was also good to see was losing Trent Jones earlier in the game and having his replacement come in and do a really good job is good to see as well. You always wonder about losing a starter on your offensive line and how that's going to affect the cohesiveness and the effectiveness of your play calling, and it didn't one bit. And if anything, I thought they got even more effective. So I don't know. It's one of those games where once again Michigan doesn't look. They don't win pretty. Like they didn't win pretty versus Iowa. They didn't win pretty today. The score margin looked good enough, but when you really watch the totality of the game, it wasn't a clean, super clean game by them.
Uh-uh.
So you do wonder about that, Des, when you think about the quote unquote better opponents like Penn State and Ohio State, because at the end of the day, look, that's what we're measuring them against. Because we're not in here to win 8 or 9 games and that's a good season. No, Michigan's in it to win 11, 12 games, win the Big Ten. And so we have to measure them by how are they trending towards that. So look, good, but they definitely still was sloppy today. And it's one of those games where you hope maybe a little bit was, one, the emotional roller coaster about what happened to Mike Hart. Maybe also a little bit of lack of focus because you worry about Penn State or something like that. But I can tell you this: they can't come out first half versus Penn State the way they came out the first half versus Indiana.
Yeah, and the thing that I get concerned about with the play calling is you look at last week, and I think we can all agree that the play calling was very conservative offensively. I think we could look at this week and say the same thing, that the play calling was pretty conservative offensively. The difficult part is you don't just flip a switch because you're playing a better team and all of a sudden you play better. You know what I mean? Like your play calling is all of a sudden more aggressive. Like you're best to do those things no matter who you're playing. So ideally, you would have loved to go out and throttle Iowa. Ideally, you would have loved to come out and throttle Indiana so that you get into a role going into Penn State, right? Because we talked about from the beginning of the season, all you want to focus on is wins, improving each week, right? Being a
Right.
better team this week than you were last week. And I mean, you could I don't know. I mean, does I'll ask our viewers, do you feel like this Michigan team, the way they played today, was better than last week? Like I'm not sure it's clear either way. You know what I mean? And I think to me that's the problem, especially when
Yeah.
you play a worse team.
Mm. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a really good question, Des. And Greg Patterson, I'm looking at comments. Said, I don't care about winning pretty. I care about winning the game. We are a conservative play calling team. It's not going to change. Greg, you're right. And me and Des recognize that. I think the problem is, and what someone could say is, well, last year, look, we didn't win pretty a lot last year, and you saw what we eventually did. You guys said we couldn't win against Ohio State the way we were playing, and we did it. And that's 100% correct. It's hard, when you're watching your team win, quote unquote, ugly or conservative, and then you're looking at your contemporary, especially Ohio State, not so much Penn State, but especially Ohio State, where they're a lot more explosive, and you just get worried, like, man, can we win a shootout type of game? What if our defense is not as effective? I mean, can we really survive that? And I don't know. That's where it gets kind of scary for me. But one thing I will say about this Michigan team is they find a way to win in different ways each week. Um, and so that's a good thing. But I don't know, man. Look, I'm not complaining about them. I think they're a really good team. I think they're gonna. I still take them to have a really good shot versus Ohio State. Right? I expect them to beat Penn State next week. But it's definitely some things that you're looking at, man. You're like, man, they still have to improve in certain areas.
Well, and what I would say to the point that you made on last year, essentially you got to where you wanted to be and past that with calling plays the way that they did. That is absolutely true, and you and I were both in lockstep that they couldn't do it if they stayed the way that they were. But the reason I would say that is not going to be reciprocal this year is because you are the hunted this year. You're not the hunter
Yeah,
anymore. You're not going to surprise anybody. Like you, people are coming for you, and we've had this conversation already. And yes, Michigan has a certain allure about them that there's always going to be an aspect of being the hunted. But but the way that you are now is on a totally different level. I mean, I don't even
yeah,
remember week 5 where they were ranked, but it wasn't number 4. I know that for a fact. So there's going to be that element that people are trying to have the huge upset. They want to be on Sports Center and Game Day and all those things that they
right.
upset the number 4 team in the country. So you're not going to be able to do it the exact same way, and teams are going to approach you very different. But it like you said, you got the win, and my thing is just forecasting it out to next week. And when you talk about playing basically the big games left on your schedule, Penn State and Ohio State, is this
Yeah,
type of play calling and this offensive play overall, is that going to be effective? Is that going to be enough to win those games? Because that's ultimately what we're talking about.
yeah.
And the way that the defense played, absolutely. The defense was lights out. They
Dude, the
did a
pass rush.
terrific Okie,
This
holy
pass.
cow, and Mike
You call
Morris,
look, you called that one,
man,
man. You said it earlier when he first you the first play you saw him make against I think Colorado State. You like, man, this guy is legit. He's really talented. And you said I think after week 2 or maybe week 3, he was like they need to get this kid more in the rotation. And he's making plays every week now. Mike Morris is really coming to his own. Like
man,
now you're seeing a dominate. And when he hits quarterbacks, man, he flattens them. Like he and a clean hit too. He's a big man. And you can tell every time a quarterback gets you saw with Talia a couple weeks ago. Like when he hits you, man, you feel it. And look, they're not Aiden and Ojabo, but they're different. And if they could be as of now, the last 2 weeks they've been just as effective. Man, if you found a way to find 2 really good pass rushers again, everything's on the table. And I think that's one of the real bright spots these last couple of weeks, Des, is the emergence of the pass rush of Oki and Mike Morris. And it really gets you excited because, and I think Joe Clapp pointed out, and it's true, if even with Ohio State too, if Michigan's able to get you in third and long situations, clear passing downs, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. And I'm feeling pretty good about the pass rush. The key is going to be for the defense is to. And I thought there was some bogus call, especially a sportsmanlike call on 32, I believe. But if they can control first and second down, not get gashed in the running game, and they get you in pure passing situations, they're going to be in pretty good shape.
And one of the things that I do like, and I don't know if this is a Jesse Minter, wrinkle or whatever the case may be, but having Oki and Mike Morris play on the same side too, like seeing that was,
Hmm.
pretty unique because a lot of times with your best pass rushers, you put them on each end, but it's impressive, man, seeing those guys just pin their ears back and go get a quarterback. And Clapp mentioned it as well in the game that if Indiana can't just drop back and throw the ball. Like
Oh no,
you can't do it
I
because
feel bad
quarterback was
for
getting
him.
hit too much,
I feel
just too
bad
much
for him.
pressure. There was nothing you could do.
Dude, like that last drive, he was literally like just getting the ball out as soon as he finished his drive. You
Hmm.
notice that? Like he wasn't even like it didn't look like he was really going through a progression. He was just like step, 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 bam, and it was. I kind of felt bad for him. He just had no time because even if Michigan didn't get to him, literally from the snap of the ball, that pocket was just collapsing right away. Like there was no resistance from that
Hmm.
Indiana offensive line, and that's how really good the Michigan pass rush was. And I will say that I'll go as far as say this. Granted, he has a different role and niche within the defense, but Mike Morris and Oki have been so good that you really haven't thought much about Mozzie Smith the last 2 weeks as much, right? They kind of like really like showed themselves. And let's be honest, a lot of times edge guys get more of the glory anyway because they get the sacks. It's hard for an interior lineman like a Mozzie Smith to get the real sexy plays anyway because they do most of the dirty work, plugging up gaps. taking away the inside Russian attack. But no, that's been a really good thing to see. And another thing too, and we talked about this week to week, but one of the most underrated thing about this receiving core, and maybe it's not underrated anymore, is that they are so good with their run blocking and their execution. And I really appreciate it and I respect it because typically wide receivers are known as prima donna types, right? They're like, no offense, they like to get out there, they like to make plays, they want to catch the ball, but they don't really like to get their hands dirty. They don't want to get in there and be physical. Typically, right? You have your exceptions,
Yep.
but not with this team, man. They seem to really enjoy from their captain, Ronnie Bell down. They really enjoy blocking on the outside.
Absolutely. So we had a comment. Captain Banana Peel said that Michigan dominated. Would you agree with that analysis?
Theodore Frazier up here. I don't see Captain
No,
Banana Peel.
that's all the comment said. Said Michigan dominated. It's not up right now,
Um,
but that was his
I would
comment.
say I would say Michigan dominated the last half of the game. I don't see how you could say that the first. Guys, it was 10-10 going to halftime, and there were two blocked field goals. Granted, both teams blocked a field goal. I mean, the first half was a mess. Third quarter really wasn't much better to halfway through. Michigan took a 17-10 lead, but I don't see how you can say they dominated. I mean, you can. If you're going to say that, say the last half, but definitely after the whole football game, there was a lot of sloppiness going on from Michigan for sure.
Absolutely. Another comment by D Brown says, "I give the offense a full pass this game. Hart's emergency was a focus and energy drainer."
Oh,
What
our
are your
boy
thoughts
D
on that?
Brown. Oh, our boy D Brown. Look, D. I'm
Actually, you
starting
don't
to
know
get.
if D Brown is a male or female, so don't assume.
You're right. Good point. Thank you very much. Well, for once again, D Brown, we really do appreciate you being here. But I'm starting to get more of a feel for how you like to view things. And look, even though I'm not going to totally dismiss the whole Mike Hart emergency, that is absolutely a emotional change, right? And especially for that team. Mike Hart means a lot to university. Means a lot to those players. Absolutely, they were impacted emotionally. But I'm not in the business of giving full passes because at the end of the day, these guys have a job to do, and that's to execute. And your coach, albeit a unexpected and scary situation, being carted off the field, you still know what plays to execute. You still put in the work throughout the week. There is no pass for you not executing because you're being distracted, right? Maybe a couple plays, I'll give you that, but not a totality. When you say full pass, it's like you're saying the whole game. I can't do that. These guys play big boy football. Big boy football. They're essentially professionals, right? We can't be giving out full passes. They have a job to do. So even though we have respect and we understand the seriousness of the situation, you still have to be a professional and find a way to block that out and do your job. That's just how it works. So I respect what you're saying. I can't go that far. I acknowledge it and I give a slight pass as during a certain point when it happened. But after a while, you gotta. And I'm sure Mike Hart. Look, we heard reports that he spoke to the team
At
during
halftime.
halftime.
Hmm.
I guarantee you, I can pretty much guarantee you, he didn't want to give the. He definitely didn't want them having to pass. He probably wanted them, knowing how Mike Hart was as a player, he wanted them to get their act together. So I understand what you're coming from, but we got to be careful with that. Your thoughts?
Um, I think there's two sides of football. I think, and especially I think this is a good situation. I think, the situation like for example on Thursday with Tua, like that was an extremely scary situation.
Yeah.
So publicly, like yes, you want to make sure that you have the respect for the situations like you mentioned. Um, but the reality of especially pro football, and when you talk about football where these coaches are making millions of dollars, like at the end of the day, let's put it this way: in practice, and Dre, you may have been here even in high school. But if a guy
Yeah.
gets hurt in practice, right? Let's say you're running team, first offense versus first defense, and a guy gets hurt, knee injury, and they're checking that guy out and taking a look to see what's going on. 9 times out of 10, the coach says, move the drill up 10 yards so we can keep practicing and let him get tended to by the trainer.
Yeah.
Like that
Absolutely.
is football. That's what it is. Now, I'm not saying, and no one is saying that no one cares about the guy who got hurt. You definitely
That's not what
do,
I'm saying at
but
all.
football
Absolutely.
is a very compartmentalized sport. Like it's very different. And think about this too. I think we're looking at it a little different because it's a coach, but I mean, there of all of the games that are played every single week, there's probably one guy carted out on a stretcher at least once a week, right? Not each team, but just every Saturday. There's a guy who's
Yeah.
carted out. Whether it's a Jones today got carted out, right? Like that did anyone give a pass because Jones went out? Like what
No.
people actually said and what you just said was the O line played even better once he was out. Like that's just that's what they have, the mentality that they have to have is
Do me a favor.
go ahead.
And I want you to finish that thought. I want you to finish that thought. But there's a comment, and I can see a lot of people after what we said are kind of still not understanding it. Um, by Malachi McKinney, gosh, who was it? He basically saying it's like these are 18, 22-year-old kids, and I want to,
Let me see if I can find it.
because
But go ahead, and go ahead and respond to what he's saying, and I'll see if I can grab it.
you guys use the word kids outside of the context of college football. Anywhere else, yeah, we're talking about 18, 22-year-old kids. When you're talking about Michigan high level college football, they're not kids. They're not. They don't get the attention of kids. They don't have the expectation of kids. They're not treated like kids. They are treated like professionals, which is why you're having such a which is why there for years it's been like this battle of these guys getting paid like professionals because everybody else is get profiting off of their. So when I say that, you can't look at their age and take that in the same context as anybody else that's outside of that group. So you got to remove that. And once again, I said that it is a huge emotional change seeing a teammate, a coach have an emergency medical situation. No matter if it's a seizure, no matter if we've seen it, and it's so scary. We've seen guys get carted off because they can't feel or move on the football field, right? That is just as scary as anything else. When people can't move, they can't move their extremities. You guys remember Ricardo Lockett playing for Seattle?
Mm-hmm. Heck, Ryan Shazier.
Ryan
That was more
Shazier.
recent. Yeah.
But there are tons of really, really scary situations that go beyond just a torn ACL, right? So, and what we're saying is, you have to be able to, as much as it emotionally affects you, and it does, it affects everyone. And you do see a drop in change in play initially. But what you have to try to do as best you can is compartmentalize what happened and focus at the task at hand. That's not easy to do, and that's not being heartless. It's recognizing what your job is in the moment. We're talking about, and the reason why I brought it up was because D. Brown said he would get them a pass. If Michigan lost today, a lot of you will be given a pass. You may recognize what happened, but you wouldn't say, you know what, I don't care we lost to Indiana today because my heart got sick and clearly the kids were affected by it. You'll still be upset. So that's what I'm trying to say. We recognize what happened, but we also got to continue to expect these guys to do their job. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead, Des.
Absolutely. So Dwayne says, thank you, Dwayne, for contributing to the channel. We greatly appreciate it. Says we played sloppy. Better to do that this week than next. I expect better discipline and execution next week. And that's the goal, ideally. And Dwayne is absolutely correct, because if you blow out Indiana and play sloppy against Penn State, right, you're going to be in a dogfight. So I agree that that yeah, you'd rather have it this week versus next week. And let's see. And Kasnus says, amazing. You call this a trap game and then are surprised when they play flat for a while. I mean, I would say they played flat for more than a while, but yes,
But what do
I
we?
did. I did
But
think it
Des,
was
what are
a
we supposed to
trap
say?
game.
Des, what are you supposed to say? Like, well, in that situation, we're supposed to say, hey guys, we made it up with a win. Go blue. It's like no, like the team played sloppy. I mean, like we're still going to point it out. I mean, it's relevant. It's not like, look, this can't be a whole. And maybe this is how some of you guys look at the game. Look, we won. That's all that matters. Fine. I mean, I guess you could say that, but you know, if we don't look at things on an individual game basis, it's like, oh yeah, we just made it through today. No, it matters. Like how are you trending? So I'll caution you guys for being like that. I understand how some people think like that, but you gotta be careful because what that can set you up for is when you'll find yourself in the game. You're like, wow, we're not playing how we usually play. Why are we down to this team? Well, maybe because you weren't looking at the signs leading up to it, right? So just be careful. That's all.
Malachi McKinney, one, says it was 10-10 in the third quarter is such a trash take. We scored a touchdown after like 3 minutes. Well, I would say it was 10-10 at halftime. So what would be your response to that? Like, it's not a trash take. Michigan had 10 points at halftime. And on top of that, you scored a touchdown the first drive that you hit, the first time you touched the ball. So you scored
Yeah.
3 points in basically 2 quarters. So I mean, you could say whatever you'd like about it, but that's the reality. You scored 7 at the beginning of the very first drive, and through halftime you got 3 more points. So I don't know. Did this look like an explosive offense? Like, you know what I mean? Like I just I'm not even quite sure what, you know what I mean, what's going on, but it just, I don't know. To me, I would go back to what Dwayne said. You'd rather have it this week versus next week.
Of course.
The
Of course.
benefit and the positive is, and I think Joel Clapp mentioned it as well, was Harbaugh's going to have this team's full attention for Penn State because they are going to have a lot of things that they can look at on film to improve on, right?
Yeah.
No one had a perfect game. Everybody had things that they can work on and that they can improve on. And that's what you want. You want a team that is dialed in, focused on, working on their mistakes so that next week you get the absolute best version of Michigan football, which is the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, no, absolutely, and even Blake Corn ran into he ran into his own man and fell straight back. So everybody has some oopsies today. That wasn't necessarily his fault, but I mean, like Ronnie Bell. I mean, there was a play where Michigan didn't convert on a 4th and 2 because he didn't uh, uh, come tight enough on his blocking assignment, and the Indiana defender was able to shoot through and catch Quan before he got his momentum going. So there's going to be those are the small details in which you're going to have to clean up, and I expect them to. And one thing I will say is that, especially the last couple of years, Harbaugh and his staff has done a really good job of keeping his guys for the most part. Overall, like today, I feel a little bit lackadaisical. But even before the Mike Hart situation, a little bit lackadaisical. Um, Overall, like I think he does a good job. So I had a pretty good amount of confidence that they're going to come out next week ready to play. But definitely can't make the same mistakes they made today. I will say in terms of JJ, I thought JJ overall played a good game. I don't mind the interception. Look, part of taking more shots is that you're going to open yourself up to turnovers. Um, it was one of those plays in which he took a shot into the end zone. I don't think it was necessarily a bad decision. A good play by defense. They kind of tipped the ball in the air. Kind of came. I think it also kind of glanced off the receiver's hands. And
I think
I'm
you may
not
have
going
lost.
to. I'm
There
not
we
going to
go.
crush him for that. What did you
Yeah.
think of JJ today?
Um, I thought JJ was fine. Like they kind of highlighted after his first eight pass plays, or 8 pass attempts, he was 8 for 8, and then after that was like 7 of 13, which I didn't think was anything. I mean, that's not a awful, 13 attempts. Like he played a really good game. I think he ended up being like 27 to 35, something like that. Like he did a good job. If I'm nitpicky on the interception, I think he could have done a better job of. I mean, he stared down that receiver. Like ideally you'd love him to at least look off a little bit, but at the end of the day, the ball got tipped. I mean, if Ronnie makes that play, then no one's is upset about it at all or cares about it. But that's just nitpicky. I thought he did a pretty good job. My
Yeah,
my my
very
main
efficient.
thing is just I just don't feel like the offense is aggressive enough for me. That's just me, and that's my opinion on it. I feel like
But it's not going to
there's long
change.
stretches where it's conservative, and that's fine against Indiana. It's fine against Iowa. Will it be fine against Penn State? Will it be fine against Ohio State? Maybe, but also maybe not. And I'd be willing to bet that it's maybe not is the what it ends up being. Like it's just I think it needs to change, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think some of us were kind of holding our hope that with a different style type of quarterback like JJ, that we'll see their approach offensively be a little bit different, but it's not any different. No, it's going to make some people upset, but whatever. Here it goes.
Bring it.
There's I texted you earlier in the game, and at a certain point, JJ was very efficient. I'm saying the keyword efficient. I think he was 8 for 8 at one point. I was like,
Let me. I'll read it. I have it here, right here. It's
okay,
ready. So you put, and I'll actually skip one text message because you gave it all on the first one. But you put
yeah,
JJ has skills for sure. He said, but he's not CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. That JJ isn't special, man. That's what you text me.
yeah,
So kind
because
of
it's like,
expound on that.
yeah, it's like the more I'm watching him, the more the sample size I'm getting for him, and what I think when people hear that, they're gonna be like, "Oh my God, you're bashing JJ." I think JJ is good. I think he could be really good, but coming in and all the hype was as if he was special, right? And then we saw guys like I think D Brown, it could have been somebody else, was saying between. You remember that question we got a few weeks ago? I think it was D Brown or somebody else. They were like, rather CJ Bryce or
Mm-hmm.
I think he said JJ. I'd rather have JJ. And I'm like, okay. And so, like, the more I watch him, I mean, he's definitely has some unique skills. He's athletic. He has a very, very good arm. But is he special? Special? Because there's a difference between being a really good college quarterback, even getting drafted, and being special. Like, special to me is like if I'm an NFL team in a top five pick, I'm going to get you, right? And as of now, and this could be subject to change, I can't say definitively like I would take JJ McCarthy now in my top for a top five pick. I can't say that. No matter how much of a I think he has, right? He still has to put it all together. And so I don't know. I mean, like I'm not seeing the specialness if you will, from him. I see he can be. I think he can be really good. And maybe yeah, Goj is right. JJ can't be JJ in this system. Maybe it's a system, right? Maybe it just hamstrings some of his true potential, and that's very possible. But yeah, I'm not seeing the special. I'm seeing a lot of goodness, but not special.
Well, and I think, like you said, you had mentioned, maybe the offense is just not going to be called any different just because you have a different quarterback. Like, because I would agree, and if in your mind imagined Cade taking all of the snaps, like, it probably wouldn't look that different. I mean, you could make an argument it wouldn't look different at all.
Hmm.
And maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's just the offense is not, is just not going to. It's just not going to look different. It's just going to be conservative. That is in lockstep in line with what Harbaugh has typically been. We've seen times where it has changed a bit, but I mean that maybe that's just it. Like it's just going to be conservative. That's how they're going to play.
Yeah.
Like even today, I'm trying to think of how many deep shots that they threw. I think there was one to Ronnie Bell that was close. Other than that, like I can't really remember any other deep shots. What about you?
No, I can't really remember any D shots either. Side note, I think Shoemaker is becoming a really, really good, target for this team. I mean, he's becoming even more, I think, dependable than Eric All was. He's from a pass catcher perspective, and Eric All was really good. So that's another positive. Him and JJ have a really good connection. But no, I mean, look, I think play calling has a little bit to do with it. I find it interesting that when you say someone's not special, that is an insult. I said he's really good. Like, is that like a bad thing? I mean, heck, he might even be the second best quarterback in his conference, right? But
Hmm.
I'm not sure if he's in the special category yet. Mind you, let me be very my total view of college football. I think there's only two special. Can you see my fingers? Two special quarterbacks right now: CJ, Bryce Young. That's my special category. And then you have your really good, and so on and so forth. So that kind of lets you guys know how I look at things. So me saying that he's not special is not a diss.
And see,
Like I think
I just like here's my thing is are we what's our consensus with all of our viewers that are here? Is the consensus that Michigan is a top four team, is going to the playoff, and is going to compete for a national championship? Or is 9-3, 10-2, that's the best that Michigan can do, and we're okay with that? Because I would like to find out where we're at, because if we know how you guys feel about it, then we could talk about we could talk about Michigan football as that being the end goal. Because for me, I'm in the first camp. I think Michigan should be thinking that they should they should win the Big Ten, compete for the playoffs, get in the playoffs, and compete for a national championship. So yes, when you play Indiana, who just lost to Nebraska last week, I do expect JJ to have more than 300 yards. It was a good game, right? So, and this is more towards the play calling, not the actual player. That needs to be better. Like 31 points on Indy. I'm pretty sure Nebraska scored about that. I think they scored like 21 or something like that. So you're telling me you're 10 points better than Nebraska? That's yeah, yeah. I expect more than 31 points. Forgive me. Maybe I'm crazy. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand. Like the like yes, there's an aspect of it. Like yes, Michigan won. You beat Indiana, so on and so forth. But when we left the stream on Wednesday, I thought we were all in agreement that was for sure going to happen. Like I thought that for sure. So okay, I mean if we're good with that, like hey, we just want to win as much as I can, and boom, thank you, Trey. Nebraska scored 35. Like I think Michigan's way better than Nebraska. I think you're way better than
absolutely.
Indiana. I think you know what I mean. I think you're way better than Iowa. So yes, I would expect a bigger output. Forgive me. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Where like what's our goal? What's our end goal here?
I think a lot of people it's just about the final result, and that's what the comment section is. It's about the final result. And if you dare say anything that is um pondering or even remotely looked as a
Hold on, Trey.
negative.
Sorry to interrupt. We scored less on Indiana last year. Okay. Well, Cade was your quarterback last year, and the general consensus was everybody wanted JJ, and that the offense was going to be better. So great. Thanks for the comment. I like. What
My
do we? Go ahead, Dre.
on that note, Des, and that is something that I hope that I want people to really take a step back and think about the totality of the games this year. Is the offense definitively better? Does it look different? I would say overall. Now you do see JJ running a little bit more. Of course, he's a lot more athletic than Cade. But like, and I texted to you earlier before I made that comment. There, it's like the overall production of the quarterback position is much different. Like if you take the names off the back of the jerseys, right? We don't know who the guys are. We're just looking at the overall production. It's the quarterback production this far in the season has been much better than last year. Oh no, not really. I mean, because Cade, no matter limited or not, he played well, right? He was productive. Now it didn't look the same as JJ. Like JJ does more things. Like JJ is really good at making plays with his legs, rolling out, giving guys time to get open, stuff like that, right? I think Cade, vice versa, was better at getting the ball out a little bit quicker and knowing who he's looking for. right? Like K was really good at making his one read progression, read and getting the ball out to that person right away. Case in point, I give you guys a distinct example, and I know by no means am I saying K is better than JJ. JJ's better. I'm just giving you. There was a 3rd and 5 play today, Michigan's on offense, and JJ gets a snap, and he either overshoots AJ Henning or he undershoots, I believe, Cornelius Johnson or Ronnie Bell. I can't remember the
Hmm.
receiver on the outside. And Joe Clapp points out how all he had to do was snap, drop, and deliver a quick little 5-yard small pass to AJ Henning. I guarantee you, because he did it all last year, Cade makes that particular play. Not saying that he can do the plays that JJ can. They're different. But those one of those quick reads that JJ can get better with, right? So it's one of those things where this kid is talented, guys, but he still has a long ways to go, and it's okay to recognize that. I don't know. Like I guess I'm not supposed to point those things out.
Is what it is. JW says play calling is trash, conservative. Yeah, I mean, I just and like I said, I'm not gonna look at it and say, well, the co-OC thing doesn't work because I think it can work, and I'm not quite sure that is the problem, but I know for sure it's definitely the conservative nature of the play calling. But as people have put in the chat, it's just Jim Harbaugh. That's his system. It's not going to change, and I mean, based on where we are now, this is what JJ's 3rd or 4th start, I think.
Yeah,
And yeah, it does not look any different. I mean, they had the deep
not
shot
much different.
in
Yeah.
his first start, but yeah, it doesn't look different. So it's buckle up, partner. This is going to be exactly what we see for the next 7 weeks. It's going to be this. So I don't know. As far as the defense, though, kind of getting back there,
Yeah.
I thought they were lights out. They thought they did a terrific job. Like you said, that pass rush was really good, and Indiana seemed to overall just kind of bail. Like they just gave up on the run game. We're like, our run game is going to be those little quick, bubble screens out wide. They were going to line up, 2 and 3 receivers out there and just fling it out there and catch and run. Like that's going to be it. And really, I mean, for a while, they literally just did it. Trips to the right, throw it out there. All right, run trips to the left, throw it out there to the left, and just went back and forth. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. I think I think your defense is going to keep you in any game that you play.
Oh yeah.
Because they at especially the D line, and I think the cover guys are really good, and that's something we kind of talked about before the season was we thought they would be better on the back end. DJ Turner's been really good. I think he had he had a PI that was declined, but they had a call on a roughing the passer call, which that was a absolute bogus call. But no, he had a really good game coverage wise. So the defense will be able to keep you in any game because I almost don't care who you play. If you give up 10 points, that is legit. A shutout in the second half. Like I can live with that every day of the week.
Yeah. I mean, look, and also, look, I feel like people they don't listen fully. The team is doing really well overall, guys. And me and Des have brought this up. They're trending in the right direction. Okay. They're having defensive playmakers like Oki and Mike Moore start to show themselves. There's a lot of good things going for this team, right? And so if you can't take, we love you. If you can't take us kind of pointing out little things that can be fixed or get better, I'm sorry, but we love you anyway. And at the end of the day is when we bring up these things, we're just talking about different areas that we need to see improved, or would like to see improved, or addressed, or critiqued, or I don't know, fine tuned a little bit so they can continue to head towards their goals, right? So look, I'm trying to put things adequately so maybe it could be heard differently, but I think I just need to say go blue. And that's what people want to hear. We're the best. We're
Mike
number
Ford
one.
puts bowl eligible, baby.
That is true.
I'm going to take that as being sarcastic. JW28 puts, our receivers can't get open against Indiana corners. That was a question mark. I don't know if that was posed to us. What are your thoughts on that, Dre?
Our receivers can't get open against. That is something a little bit to think about. That's a good point, and that's something that it feels like we've been a big what's it called, the big Saturday kickoff, whatever it's
Big
called.
noon
We've been
kickoff.
big noon kickoff every week. It seems like, and that's not the first time Joe Clyde has brought that up. It's happened a couple times where uh, our wide receivers have not gotten great separation. Now, a few times we have, those were the moments where JJ has overshot guys deep a little bit. But I would say this, for the caliber of athletes that we have, think that we would get a little bit more. Now, that's something that can improve throughout the course of the year. But for this passing game to take another step forward, that is an area that they need to improve on and getting better with getting separation.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say because I will say obviously, well, seemingly none of the receivers got open deep, but they did get open as far as crossing routes and intermediate things like that. So I'm not sure I'm gonna just agree wholeheartedly with that. I think with just trying to get deep, it doesn't seem to be working or clicking as of right now. But I think I think they'll be fine. It'll be nice when Roman Wilson gets back. I did not. I guess I missed his injury last week, but I
Yeah.
saw early before the kickoff that they said he was out, and I don't think he made the trip. But nonetheless, it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens there. I think we had Cornelius. I felt like we saw Cornelius more and Andrew Anthony more. And Anthony is one, like, they just cannot seem to get him in the fold of things. Like Joel
Not
Klatt
consistently.
mentioned after I think and maybe I misheard him, but he said after the Michigan State game where he went crazy, he hasn't had more than one catch in any game since then. Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy to me. That
Yeah.
is wild.
Yeah.
I just don't. I may. I don't know. Maybe there's just not enough to go around, but I would like to think that there is. But I mean, Ronnie Bell got, I think, double-digit catches today. I think Schoonmaker got quite a few. But man, I think Andrell is a receiver and a weapon that can definitely be used in this offense. I mean, I know he sure as heck did last year in that Michigan State game. I mean, he was, especially that catch and run, he was flying. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. I don't know. Maybe something's not clicking for him. Maybe him and JJ don't have just that connection. Maybe he's the third or fourth read on some of these pass plays, and can't get the ball. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, there's some multitude of factors that can go into that, but vice versa. I will say that you've been calling for the appearance of Cornelius Johnson for quite a while now, and he made some plays today. So I think you need to give your boy Cornelius Johnson some props. He made some plays today. You've been
I
asking it to
will
him to show up.
I will give him some props. He did show up today. He also had a pretty big drop as well. We
He did. He made up
can't
for
do
it. He made
that.
up.
He did. He
He made
absolutely
up
did
for it.
make up for it. He played well. He played well. He's really physical. He caught the ball well at the one drop. But yeah, absolutely. Zach Wallace puts, you're absolutely right to ask tough questions after that game. The analyst was literally calling the run play, the pass offense is pop gun. I don't know about the last part, but Joel Klatt absolutely, and I don't, some people may not listen to with the actual with the sound on, but Joel Klatt absolutely called that. He basically said, when they run motion, they're going to throw it. When they don't run motion, they're going to run it. Now, he even qualified it because as soon as he said it, it came to fruition. But he's like, I'm not saying that's going to happen every single time, but you definitely want to avoid those tendencies if you're not doing it on purpose, right? So if you
Right.
get into next week against Penn State and you don't run motion and they, absolutely commit to the run and you go play action up top, right? You can use that to your advantage. I guess I'll say it that
Yeah.
way. But for him to call it, that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that was interesting to see. You
Yeah.
kind of broke up a little bit for me, so I don't know if I cut you off. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good.
No, I
Um,
mean like that.
people
That
think that Blake Corum he needs to be used in the pass game more.
nah,
Um, do you have any
Blake.
concerns with his workload recently? Because he had, and
Well,
I'm not saying he's
they've
fragile or
tried
anything
to
like that, but
they've tried to reduce his workload the last couple of weeks. So they tried to mix in Donovan Edwards and to give him a little bit of a break. Um, no, especially with Donovan Edwards being back. If Donovan Edwards was like out for the season, I'll be a little concerned. But I think the more Donovan gets his legs under him, you'll see a lot more of him in the mix, and giving Blake Corum a spell here and there. So, and the way Blake's built, he's really compact, right?
mhm,
So he's built for. It's really tough to get a hard hit on him.
correct.
Like 'cause he's so
Dude, on that
compact to the
50
ground.
yard, 51-yard run, like he was bottled up. That was incredible watching that run.
He's like
Uh,
a bowling ball.
Jeez, yeah, it's
He's like a bowling
impressive.
ball. He really is, man. He has, and it's ironic, like once again, we hope Mike Hart has speedy recovery. But before the game, they had Mike Hart, talking about, Blake Corum. They did a little piece on Blake Corum about his background and stuff like that, being a country boy, and like it's obvious Mike values him very much so, and talks about how much of a workaholic he is. And it looks like it pays off for that kid. He's well prepared. Mike Hart even went as far to say that he reminds him of Peyton Manning in terms of there's no way he's going to go into a game and not be prepared. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but he's not going to he won't be beat due to lack of preparation. And that's you can take that to the bank. That is part of high of a compliment that you can get.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's impressive. I mean, seeing Corum, I mean, he's been lights out this year. Absolutely incredible. Today he finished with 25 carries for 124 and a touchdown, and he actually didn't have any catches. And Donovan Edwards only had 8 touches in the game today. Like he had 7 carries for 15 yards and 1 catch for 10 yards. It's so interesting. I mean, because Blake, it's the balancing act, and I think it's difficult when Blake is running the way that he has been the last 2 weeks to take any carries away from him. But I just figured Donovan would have been a little more, would get just more than 7 carries. You know what I mean, in a game
Well,
where you ran
well,
it
they're
a
still
decent
working
amount.
him back. Well, they're
True,
still
that's
working him
true.
back. And I think the more that he gets his legs under him, we'll see more of a steady diet of him in the offense in different ways. He would be back there in the backfield. We know they like to split him outright. So they love to utilize his variety of skills he has. So we would definitely see more Donovan Edwards throughout the course of the season, which is a great thing because he's a heck of a player.
Absolutely. Um, so got Penn State next week. How are you feeling about the game as of right now?
I feel pretty good, man. I mean, overall, where this team is, like they have for one, they play Penn State typically very. Besides 2020, we won't count 2020. Typically they Penn State doesn't play well at Michigan, and Michigan plays well against Penn State at home. But just besides that, I think Michigan is doing everything they need to be able to do right now. They have things clicking pretty much everywhere that needs to be clicked to beat Penn State. The only question I still have about is Ohio State, and we'll handle that when we get there. But as of now, I feel pretty confident. I think they're healthy enough. I think as of now, we expect Roman Wilson to be back for that game, so they should have all hands on deck in terms of their offensive weapons. Besides Eric All, of course, but Shoemaker's been very, very good. So, and defensively, one of the biggest things I'm very pleased about once again is the emergence of the pass rush. So, hey, if you're able to, and Penn State has a very good running back core. So if you're able to, somewhat limit them and put all the pressure on the seventh year quarterback, and why am I drawing a blank? Is it
Sean Clifford.
uh, Sean Clifford? Thank you. And put Sean Clifford in obvious passing situations. We're going to be in pretty good shape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's not many quarterbacks that are getting away from Okie and Mike Morris. So Yeah, I think, which I saw a couple clips of Penn State from earlier in the season where he was kind of running around a bit, and he's more mobile than I thought he was. I don't think he's a scrambling quarterback or anything like that, but he definitely is. He can move better than I thought he could. I originally thought he was just a straight statue, but yeah, I mean I think if Michigan plays like they did on defense, number one, I think they're gonna be just fine.
Yeah.
Um, and I do think I think you will have to hit some plays over the top. I don't think Penn State is the type of defense that you can do all of your work, underneath and run game. I think you're just gonna have to hit them over the top, and Michigan has the personnel to do it. So it's just gonna be making sure you dial it up on the right times and making sure you connect when you get it. But I think they'll be all right. I think they'll be just fine as far as next week. So it'll be
Yeah.
go ahead.
And doing our Wednesday show, we look forward to seeing you guys there. Of course, we'll talk about it even more. Look, I'm absolutely expecting Michigan to win on Saturday, next Saturday. They have everything they need to get that win at home. I think it's going to be obviously a sold out crowd. I don't know if this has been flexed to a night game or not. It should, but
I don't think, but see, here's the thing: Big Noon Kickoff is going to be there, so I'm not sure they
ugh,
can flex it. You know what I mean? At
I
this
know.
point, like I don't think that can happen.
Yeah, I know, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's going to be a packed house, sold out crowd. And so everything's in Michigan's hands to take care of it, and I think they will.
Yeah, yeah. They've been here before, so that you've got that as far as a benefit. But yeah, like GOJ says right here. Truth be told, Michigan's got to understand they're going to get everybody's best game, and that's absolutely true. So we'll see we'll see what happens, but yeah, absolutely expecting Michigan to beat Penn State. But I think this is going to be a very important week of practice for them too. Like of just like I
Sure.
said, making sure that you go into this time next week as your best version of the best version of yourself as a team. And as long as they do that, I think they'll be just fine. But if you can hold teams,
Side note.
to 10 points, you'll be in good shape. Go ahead.
Quick note. I'm watching the State Ohio State game, and man, this Ohio State defense is still soft. It's charming. I'm sorry, they're still soft. It's charming. Like it's just
Well, I
good.
mean,
That's all I gotta say. Good, better for us. They still soft and charming. That offense is elite, but man,
what would you rather have? An elite offense and bad defense, or flipped?
well, we know about that. As a Lions fan, we get both. We know
Oh,
how that
all right.
looks.
Really? You're just
You don't
gonna.
don't don't like that one, do you? It's okay. Hey,
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes look, sometimes you gotta make fun of your pain. You know what I'm saying? You gotta make fun of your pain, as Kevin Hart said. You gotta laugh at your own pain. So, um,
But Kevin Hart gets paid to do that.
yeah, you're right.
No, it's yeah, we'll see. I mean, that's we're what that's a month and a half from now, so that game is way down the road. But taking care of Penn State, those Nittany Lions, is gonna be big. So I think that is it for us. We've got about 109 on right now. Please, everybody, give us a thumbs up on your way out. We definitely appreciate it. There's a lot of good games on the rest of the afternoon and evening. So
Yes, there are.
a lot of good football going on. So this is just the beginning for today.
I don't. I'm really before I let you guys go. I'm really torn watching the State Ohio State game because on one hand I want to see Ohio State lose, but on the other hand I don't want to see Sparty like gloat for a week. So I don't know. This has
They
always puts me
won't.
in the
Well, that they might. Well, they will. Okay, here's the thing. They will gloat to Ohio State fans. They won't gloat to Michigan fans. They wouldn't have anything to gloat
yeah.
about. If I mean, I don't know. If I were, I would think you maybe not root for anybody, but root for Ohio State to lose.
I mean, honestly, like if they both can take like a tie, I would love that just so they can both be in pain personally. But that doesn't happen in college, so whatever.
Correct.
Anyway,
They do it the right way. Ending
right.
a game in a tie is ridiculous, but
I
yeah.
agree. That's a whole nother topic, but all right. You
Absolutely.
know,
That is it for us, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in. We appreciate it. And we are out. Peace.